We are absolutely overwhelmed with the number of stories we're going to give to you in the next 60, maybe 70 or 80 minutes. So we got to get right to it. We got the Wall Street Journal revealing, shock of all shocks, that Joe Biden might be losing it a little bit behind closed doors. No, oh God. We've got illegals taking selfies of the border wall as they flout our laws. We've got Dr. Phil weighing in on the Trump verdict, and we've got Star Wars. It's gotten so gay. We've got all that and more coming up right now. I'm Larry O'Connor. Call me Larry. And I'm not joking. We got to get right to it. No messing around today because we got a ton. So we'll start with the Wall Street Journal with this stunning and revealing headline. Behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping. Behind closed doors, he's having a little trouble. Everything you see out front, his public appearances, A-OK. He's Johnny on the spot. Couldn't be sharper. But behind closed doors, that's where you have to worry. We are in so much trouble. Now, let's just be clear here. Up until this article, we've heard the exact opposite from the propaganda press, right? We've heard, oh, sure, he's got some slip-ups. He still has a stutter. He's been struggling with it since he's been a child. So he might have a couple of moments in the public spotlight that you're just too stupid to really understand how brilliant he is. But behind closed doors, this guy nails it. We've had Democrats after Robert Hur, who, by the way, was the special prosecutor who investigated Joe Biden's illegal handling of classified documents. And make no mistake, there was illegal handling of classified documents. Robert Hur just didn't press charges because he's so mentally incompetent. He is not competent to stand trial. So Robert Hur said, we're not going to press charges, even though he broke the law. That's what his report said. And ever since then, we've had this parade of Democrats who say, I don't know what he's talking about. He couldn't be sharper. Behind closed doors, you should hear him. He can recite the Magna Carta. He recites the entire Constitution off the top of his head. He's playing 4D chess behind closed doors. So I don't know what they're talking about, right? And now here's the Wall Street Journal. Participants in meetings said the 81-year-old president performed poorly at times. The White House said Biden is sharp and his critics are playing partisan politics. Well, let's get to some of the charges in this article. When President Biden met with congressional leaders in the West Wing in January to negotiate a Ukraine funding deal, he spoke so softly at times that some participants struggled to hear him. This is in the Oval Office. It's not a huge room. This is according to 5 people familiar with the meeting. He read from notes to make obvious points, paused for extended periods, and sometimes closed his eyes for so long that some in the room wondered whether he had tuned out. In other words, the exact same Joe Biden we see every day, right? This whole speaking softly thing, which is a sign of deteriorating health, okay? If you don't have the power and lung capacity or the use of your vocal cords, if you meet anybody who has gotten to such a stage where they're in the final moments of life, they are unable to speak well. That's why, if you ever see when he does press appearances now, they've got the microphones on the presidential podium, right? It's the same podium that they use all the time with the presidential seal, and it's got 2 microphones. But he always has this like karaoke mic that he carries around with him. Have you ever noticed this? And he carries it around, and he walks around with it, and he keeps the microphone like this close. He keeps the microphone this close to his mouth so that when he says anything, people can hear it. It's like he's eating the microphone. It's like he's treating the microphone like some 14-year-old girl that he's standing behind during a swearing in of somebody in the Senate. He wants to get his mouth as close as possible so he can smell it. Right? You know what I'm talking about. He does this all the time. It's like karaoke night. He's going to break out, with Dancing Queen or something while he's doing a press appearance. And now without the microphone, without the PA system, when he's just sitting in the Oval Office negotiating for funding for Ukraine, they can't hear a damn word he's saying. What are they going to do? Like install the karaoke machine in the Oval Office? Oh, yeah, this goes all the way back to Roosevelt. He had this. Oh, man, would he party? He'd sing some Neil Diamond. Well, some Andrews Sisters back then during World War II. Oh, no, it's a historic karaoke machine. It's not new or anything. We haven't installed it because of this feeble old man. The White House kept close tabs on some of the Wall Street Journal's interviews with Democratic lawmakers. After the offices of several Democrats shared with the White House either a recording of an interview or details about what was asked, some of those lawmakers spoke to the Journal a second time and once again emphasized Biden's strengths. Let me translate that for you. After Democrat lawmakers on the House alerted the White House that they're participating in this Wall Street Journal article and revealed that the Wall Street Journal was asking about how old he was, the White House said, you better call them back and tell him he's great. You better call them back right now and get on the record that you were wrong. Whatever you told him was wrong. You'll tell him this, damn it. Gregory Meeks, New York Democrat, said, they just, said that I should give you a call back. I want to give you a call back. But they're asking if he's mentally incompetent. What did you tell him? Oh, God, you didn't tell him the truth. Did you call him back? The president moved so slowly around the cabinet room to greet the nearly 24 congressional leaders that it took about 10 minutes for the meeting to begin. Some people who attended recalled. Biden started the meeting reading from notes to make broad points about the need to give money to Ukraine, which struck several participants as odd, given that the lawmakers present already generally agreed that more funds were needed. Some attendees had trouble hearing him. Biden deferred so frequently to lawmakers that much of the conversation didn't include him. Some people who attended the meeting recalled when questions came directly to him, he would turn to staffers, they said. In other words, other people are running this White House, not Joe Biden. Mr. President, you are helping Vladimir Putin, Johnson told the president. This is House Speaker Mike Johnson, according to one of the people briefed on the exchange. Biden said that wasn't true and that the new policy was only a study, according to several people familiar with Johnson's version of what happened. Johnson was dismayed that Biden appeared to have forgotten details of his own policies. Right. So in other words, Speaker Mike Johnson was like, listen, this thing that you're doing now is helping Putin. And Biden says, no, we're not. That's just a study. And everyone in the room and everyone at the cabinet, everyone working for the staff of the White House are like, who's going to tell him it's not a study? Who's going to tell him that this is actually our policy right now? Johnson knew. Everyone in the room knew, except the president of the United States. More from this article. Even McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, and other lawmakers met with the president the next day. McCarthy said Biden lacked the spontaneity he had projected on the plane. He was going back to all the old stuff that he had been doing for a long time, McCarthy said. And he was shocked when I'd say, no, Mr. President, we talked about that meetings ago. We're done with that. No, Grandpa, you've already told us that story. Try to keep up. The president spoke so softly and with such little enunciation. We see this all the time. Again, what's this behind closed doors crap? This is the guy we see every single day in front of us. That attendees said they struggled to hear what he was saying. People familiar with the meeting said he told the same story more than once about his experience with the DuPont company during his time as a Delaware senator, one of the people said. So you can barely hear him. He slurs his speech. It doesn't seem like he knows what's going on. He doesn't recall from one day or the other a story that he's already told people. And he's constantly telling stories about when he was a senator. Do you know why he's constantly telling stories about when he was a senator? Because he thinks he's still a senator. His brain doesn't work. Today's the 80th anniversary of D-Day, right? And over in Normandy, we've got like 110-year-olds who participated in the landing on Omaha Beach, and they've got more going on right now than Joe Biden does. Well, the article hit late last night, and boy, oh boy, did the bat signal go out. Red sirens blaring everywhere. They had to do damage control. So who'd they call? Oh, they're old standbys, their go-tos, the people they can count on more than anyone else, Joe and Mika.
Kevin McCarthy.
By the way, they also
quoted
Mike Johnson, people around Mike Johnson, and admit that this was basically House Republicans whacking.
Why didn't they just ask Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Well, exactly. Why did? They could have.
And Lauren Boebert.
Yeah, it's really shocking, especially when you see what Kevin McCarthy has said repeatedly, publicly, and behind the scenes about Biden on those same days when they were negotiating.
The strong feelings you're seeing about this article comes also because the
I'll pause right there because, it's almost all right. I'll let it run quickly.
Context of this race and these two candidates, it's interesting. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, Mika always brings extra info to the table. Joe Scarborough, both of them saying, oh, this is media bias. Oh, they only interviewed Republicans who hate him already. So, of course, that's what you're going to say. As you saw, of course, there were Democrats who were on the record about this, and then the White House made them call them back to add to the record. So they did talk to Democrats as well. Kevin McCarthy at the time said very nice things about Joe Biden's performance. Yeah, because Kevin McCarthy at the time was Speaker of the House and he was trying to play nice. He was trying to be diplomatic, and he didn't want to pee in the well while they're trying to negotiate some deal. And which, by the way, is a lesson to every Republican for playing nice and trying to work with Democrats, because this is how they'll treat you afterwards when you come back and say, let me tell you the truth now. Honestly, this guy's lost it. And Joe Scarborough runs down your throat and tries to rip your heart out, because there's no winning with these people. There's no winning at all. The damage control sirens made it all the way to this guy, John Favreau. Favreau was like a political operative for Barack Obama. What was he, like a political strategist? He does a podcast now, right? Yeah, Pod Save America. He used to work with Obama and Biden. He's a Democrat operative, right? Think George Stephanopoulos, but without the fancy ABC News contract. But he's an operative. He just does politics. He carries water for the Democrats. That's his job. So he took to Twitter and said, well, that's good to hear. And he highlighted this article where the quote was, in on-the-record interviews, 7 GOP senators who've met with Biden lately described him as cogent and well-versed on the issues they discuss. See? And there's the article. It's from Politico. MAGA World says Biden's lost it. Republican senators disagree. In fact, here, let's take a look at that article, because listen, this is really, oh, look, I got a shoe ad too. I love it when that happens. I've been looking for shoes. I'm not going to lie. This is real. And now I got to say, for John Favreau, this is a really good counterpunch. Wall Street Journal says all these Republicans say that behind closed doors, Joe Biden has lost it. But here, Republican senators disagree. 7 GOP senators who've met with Biden lately describe him as cogent and well-versed on the issues they discuss. Well, there you go. All right, listen, we're fair and balanced here. We want to give everybody equal time. We're an open book. We're transparent, unlike Joe and Mika. So let's take a look at this article. This is great. So it's by Olivia Beavers. There you go. And it's March 26, 2021. Okay, and then I'm sorry. It's March 26, 2021. John Favreau, trying to do damage control for Joe Biden, tweeted it out this morning, June 2024, tweeted out an article from over 3 years ago. Everything's fine in the White House. What are you guys talking about? Everything's absolutely fine. This is when the narrator does the voiceover and says, no, actually, everything is not fine. Everything's not fine at all. Hey, let me ask you a question. Could your savings weather an economic storm? Seriously, have you thought about that? I mean, you could almost argue that with inflation and interest rates the way they are right now, we're in the middle of an economic storm, an economic hurricane. Think about what you put away for the future and how you've put it away, right? Inflation can render cash worthless. Real estate can crash like in 2008. Economies built on a mountain of debt can fall like a house of cards. There are very few physical assets you can invest in that can stand the test of time. Gold has withstood as a valued form of money for millennia. It's why people are flocking to it now and why Birch Gold is busier than ever. Through a little-known tax loophole, Birch Gold lets you convert a retirement account into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And the best part of all of this is it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. These are your existing accounts that are converted. To learn more about this, text Larry to 989898 and claim your free info kit on gold. It's free and it's waiting for you. All you got to do is text Larry to 989898. Again, can your IRA or 401k weather an economic storm? If not, call the people I trust. Get the information. It's free. Birch Gold. Text Larry 989898 and secure your savings today. Now, we got big news about the January 6 hearings. You remember the January 6 hearings. This was literally a made-for-television event that was meant to, well, really just put a final nail in the coffin of Donald Trump's political career. They showed us the entire insurrection. It was produced by an ABC entertainment producer for prime time. Liz Cheney was there coordinating the whole thing, and it was meant to kill Donald Trump's future. But of course, Donald Trump is now leading in the polls, including in all the battleground states. And if the election were held today, he would be elected president again. So that tells you how how well the committee did at their task at hand. And now we're learning more about what a fraud, a sham, a piece of theater this entire committee hearing was. One of the most compelling moments was one with Cassidy Hutchinson, who had worked for the Trump White House, for the chief of staff, Mark Meadows. And she described a scene, you remember it, that Donald Trump was trying to wrestle the Secret Service, like the steering wheel of the beast from the Secret Service right here. I'll remind you of what the testimony was.
Angry response to that. Tony described him as being irate. The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Ornato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
And was Mr. Engel in the room as Mr. Ornato told you this story?
He was angry.
Okay, that's really compelling stuff there. And by the way, if you take a look at that last moment there, when Liz Cheney asked about who was in the room when she was told the story, you can read between the lines and recognize that, in fact, Cassidy Hutchinson actually never witnessed what she just described in such vivid and emotional detail. See, that was a third-hand account of a story she was told by somebody. She wasn't in the car, and anybody who understands how the beast, the presidential limousine, works, you know that Donald Trump can't physically reach up and grab the steering wheel because, well, it's not open like that. That's not something the president can even physically do. So this thing was debunked pretty quickly. But Cassidy Hutchinson, you saw her there. First of all, she was coached to give her testimony by Alyssa Farah, who also worked in the Trump White House. She has turned on Donald Trump, and she hates him now. And she was rewarded with a contract, not just from CNN, but also ABC, where she sits on the panel at The View. So, you know, there's big money in getting a makeover physically as well as politically, and then turning on Donald Trump. You get rewarded for it, right? And Cassidy Hutchinson, same thing. She got a big book contract telling her story. She got the physical makeover. She looked fabulous, right? She's a superstar. And she and Alyssa Farah both kind of worked together to coax Cassidy out to do this testimony. Liz Cheney, by the way, who you saw there, who engineered this whole thing, boy, she was really sympathetic to Cassidy Hutchinson. Here's how she introduced her.
Today's witness, Ms. Cassidy Hutchinson, is another Republican and another former member of President Trump's White House staff. Certain of us in the House of Representatives recall that Ms. Hutchinson once worked for House Republican Whip Steve Scalise.
That's right. See, this is all to just set up the fact that she's not some crazy left-wing liberal Democrat. She is a Republican, and she's doing the good and patriotic thing. And there's no personal benefit to her whatsoever. I mean, except for the book deal and the accolades and the celebrations. And she might have a cable news deal now, too. Liz Cheney, of course, who did the same thing. She didn't win her primary because the voters of her state rejected her in Wyoming. It was humiliating. She lost by like double digits in the primary. But of course, she got a job on one of those, think tanks. It's probably Brookings Institute or something like that. Not that she needs the money, because she's Dick Cheney's daughter, and they got a ton of cash to work with after all of his public service, Also on this panel as a Republican was Adam Kinzinger. Again, Adam Kinzinger didn't even try to run for re-election, but he did get a big money contract at CNN as a political analyst, just like Alyssa Farah did. But it's almost like there's big money in Republicans turning on Donald Trump, just like Jonah Goldberg did with his CNN contract, Steve Hayes with his NBC News contract, and Charlie Sykes with his MSNBC contract. I can go on and on. There's a ton of them, actually. And what's really funny is those are the same people who call themselves true conservatives and call Republicans who still support Donald Trump, they call us sellouts. We're the sellouts. They're the ones with the big TV contracts and book deals. We're sellouts. To sell out, don't you actually have to get money in return? Where's my contract? But that's neither here nor there. Now you know who Cassidy Hutchinson. You saw her testimony. You saw all of it. But what you didn't see was the actual driver of that car, the one in question. You see, you've got this testimony from Cassidy Hutchinson saying, I heard secondhand from someone else that Donald Trump tried to reach up and take the steering wheel of the presidential limousine and force the car to go to the Capitol on January 6th. Now, I'm no congresswoman like Liz Cheney or a congressman like Adam Kinzinger. Did I get that right? Because I'm always confused about pronouns. I'm no lawyer. I'm no genius. But if I'm hearing Cassidy Hutchinson give me that testimony, the next call I'm making is to the driver of the limousine. And this is a select committee of the United States House of Representatives with subpoena power. You can get anyone you want to come and testify and answer your questions. Why wouldn't you get that driver? That would be huge. I want the driver to tell me in vivid detail about when Donald Trump climbed over from the back seat of the presidential limousine and wrestled the steering wheel away from him to get the car to the Capitol. Don't you want to hear that testimony? We never did. Why didn't we hear that testimony? This is Representative Loudermilk of Georgia. He's looking into the January 6th committee's behavior under the last Congress, under Speaker Nancy Pelosi. It's hard for him to do this job, by the way, because a good chunk of the evidence that that committee had collected has been destroyed. That's weird, isn't it? But he's piecing it together, and he learned something. He learned something about Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony and about the limo driver. Take a look.
And what's interesting, John, is in the very beginning of the driver's testimony, his attorney starts off by chastising the select committee. And he said, we offered to come in July, August, September, and now it's November. So we found out for the first time that the driver had been offering to come in and testify under oath as far back as just a weeks after Cassidy made these claims, but the select committee would not bring them in. Wow. And then to top it all off, they never asked him about this incident.
Wow.
He had to interject it himself. So walking away just from that testimony tells me that Cassidy Hutchinson her testimony became the narrative of the select committee on January 6th. They had determined that was going to be the story, and they didn't want anything else to get in the way or circumvent that. But every testimony we have other than hers either never mentions those stories or totally contradicts her testimony.
Totally contradicts it. And the driver was begging to come in and testify, and they never let him. It's almost like the January 6th committee led by Liz Cheney there was not meant to get to the truth. It was a big piece of propaganda that had nothing to do with actually revealing the facts of what happened. You noticed, of course, we never had any testimony about why there wasn't additional security that day and why the National Guard was turned down when it was offered to them earlier in the week. After Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, by the way, Liz Cheney tweeted out this article, "The case for prosecuting Donald Trump just got much stronger." You see, June of 2022, that's right after Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony. When you click on the link, this is fun. It actually goes to a blank page over at the website, The Dispatch. You can't find it. But I found it. It was on another part of the Dispatch. Here it is. "The case for prosecuting Donald Trump just got much stronger. New testimony may have produced a smoking gun." And there she is again, Cassidy Hutchinson. You see how important this testimony was? Yeah, and I don't want to bore you with the article, but I will point out that it's written by David French, another one of those true conservatives, the real conservatives, the ones who didn't follow the Trump MAGA cult, kept true to his foundational principles. You know, he's another one of those guys who call people like me a sellout. He wrote this article featuring Cassidy Hutchinson and this new testimony that really makes the case for prosecuting Donald Trump. David French isn't at the Dispatch anymore, by the way. He now writes columns for the New York Times and the Atlantic, and he's featured in many documentaries. And We're the sellouts. Dr. Phil is quickly becoming a thorn in the side of the political and cultural left. They used to love this guy. He was Oprah's doctor, by the way. I mean, Oprah produced his show, created the whole Dr. Phil phenomenon, and he was right there with Oprah on everything. But something has changed with Dr. Phil, and we want to check in on him. It's been a little while. He's been really strong on border issues. He's been strong on Islamic revolutionaries taking over college campuses. I think that was the last video we did. Oh, and telling the truth about the whole transgender cult. He's been just fantastic on all that stuff. So I wonder how Dr. Phil feels about the verdict against Donald Trump, convicting a former president and the current candidate for president. Well, Dr. Phil, how does that strike you?
This weaponization, the FBI, Justice Department, will lead to one of two outcomes. One is more of the same from the other side. That may seem deserved, but it is not the right way forward. The other is what I call on you to demand from your politicians today: an end to this craziness in order to save the soul and sanity of our country. We are all brothers and sisters, and there must be no resentment among us. For any war to truly end, forgiveness is necessary. That is true of any war, including our current cultural war. We need our Justice Department to return to the business of meting out justice and not running the political agendas of those currently in power and attacking political opponents. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. We are not some banana republic, for God's sakes. What are we going to do next? Have a Putin poisoning posse and start finding political opponents foaming at the mouth at home, not so mysteriously dying in their lazy boy recliners? We're better than that. We must be better than that. I don't like what I see happening in our country. I don't like seeing the weaponization of our justice system just make my skin crawl. This is so not just about Trump. If you let your hatred for Donald Trump compromise your ability to find true north on your moral compass, shame on you.
All right, now there's more to this, and I'm going to play it out, but I think that this is a good moment to just sort of pause and reflect on what we're hearing here. And by the way, this needs to get out. I hope you can share this video with your friends on Facebook or social media, especially those who are sort of steeped in this revenge culture that many of us, me included, are feeling right now, because this is good for reflection. It's good to sort of analyze exactly where we are and where we should be headed. I appreciate Dr. Phil and the presentation that he just gave and will continue to give. I appreciate him quoting Jesus Christ on the cross about forgiveness. And forgiveness is important. It's an important value on a personal level for each of us in our interactions with everyone around us, with our family, with our friends, with our enemies, with everyone we interact with. I mean, Jesus, when he taught us to pray, specifically said that we should, in speaking with our Father every day, forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Our ability to forgive other people is part and parcel to our calling as Christians. I get that, and I appreciate it. Here's the thing. When it comes to the political process that we're embroiled in right now in this country, I would love to live in the world that Dr. Phil lives in right now, where he thinks that the party that steps up and says, that's it, this has gone too far, for God's sake, have you no decency, sir? It must end now. Put us into power and it will all end. We'll take the high ground. Let's say Republicans did that. In fact, we don't have to imagine this. You see, this is exactly what Donald Trump did do in 2016. Everyone's yelling at Donald Trump. It's like, oh, he's upset that he just got prosecuted. Let's not forget, this is the guy who ran on lock her up, lock her up. It's true. He did run on lock her up. Barack Obama, by the way, ran on the idea that George Bush was a corrupt president who got us into a war for his own personal gain. Okay. And was anti-science because he came up with a negotiated compromise on stem cell research. I'll never forget that one. Politicians say a lot of ugly things when they're running for office. I don't necessarily always judge my politicians on what they say. I'm naive, I know, but I judge them on what they actually do. And no one should ever forget that 1 week after Donald Trump was elected president in 2016, when asked about investigating Hillary Clinton, he said, yeah, you know what? She's been through a lot. The country's been through a lot. It'd be too divisive if we did that. So he didn't. Now, Dr. Phil, in the world you're living in right now, that should have been the end of it. He took the high ground and he said, no, we're not going to do that. But look what happened to Donald Trump. Actually, don't even look what happened to Donald Trump. Look what happened to us. Look at what happened to our country. Look at what happened to the citizens in this country, and certainly the people who supported and wanted to see Donald Trump's agenda go through. Look at what happened to the people who voted for him with the weaponization of the Justice Department. Hillary Clinton gave millions of dollars to a foreign spy to create a fake dossier on the President of the United States. And that dossier was then used as the basis for a secret FBI investigation into the president and his team. It crippled the presidency, and it was all bogus. It was all made up. But then they didn't stop there. Now, forgive us if we think the only way this stops is if they feel the same pain that we're feeling. I would love to listen to my better angels, Dr. Phil, but this isn't a television show. And if Donald Trump gets into office and then doesn't robustly investigate the DOJ and the FBI and the district attorneys who have been working with them to weaponize our judicial system, to investigate judges who are politically biased and using the power of the bench to enact revenge and penalties against political opponents, if he doesn't do all of that, it will continue. In fact, it will get worse. It's part of a president's job to make sure and ensure to the American people that we don't have a corrupt system. Now, that may not sound very Christian, and maybe it isn't. But this isn't about revenge for revenge's sake. This isn't about gratuitously inflicting pain on somebody because we get our kicks out of it. It's about fixing our country. This country, which, by the way, is a pretty important element in God's plan on this planet. So we'll go back to Dr. Phil here because, I respect the man and I like what he has to say, but I also think, given the enemies we're dealing with, it's a little naive. And if you want to reshoot this through a Christian portal, as he is, when you back off from Satan and you say, all right, enough is enough, I'm going to take the high ground. I'm not going to engage in you and him. I'm going to fight you anymore. And I'm not going to try to harm you. I'm just going to go my way, and I expect you to do the same. Does Satan back down? I mean, you're the one who brought up Christianity here. Does Satan back down?
We need leaders who will pledge to end this vicious cycle right now and return us to that safe place where our institutions are no longer bastardized and weaponized, but rather simply serve their intended purpose. The current administration could and should do the right thing. Dismiss now all such lawfare, pledge to return to the normal functioning of a government rightly run.
Well, listen, that was strong, and it was powerful, and good for him. And I have no doubt that he's sincere. And I want that. Listen, if that were to happen, if Joe Biden, they announced, today, all right, enough, call it off. This is bad. This is wrong. We've had second thoughts. We should have never done this. Okay. First of all, it would prove that they have been behind it. They're also never going to do that because they're incredibly ruthless. They're incredibly ruthless. And frankly, I believe what they say. I believe they believe what they say, that Donald Trump is the single most threatening person to the future of the country they envision. Because he probably is. The country they want, where they're in charge, and the rest of us lemmings just, go where we're supposed to go and where we're told, and keep paying our taxes so that they can keep spending it however they want for their friends and their pals. Yeah, that Donald Trump probably is a threat to that. I believe them when they say they must stop Donald Trump. And again, to remind you, what they mean is they want to stop you from voting for him. You're the problem in this whole equation. You are. So listen, if that were to happen, Dr. Phil, that's great. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen by any stretch of the imagination. And the fact of the matter is, if I can continue along sort of the spiritual and theological road that Dr. Phil was walking, it's not enough to just call a truce and say, okay, we got to be better than this. Let's move on. No, there needs to be what's called reconciliation. Okay. And reconciling involves more than just saying, I'm sorry, okay, let's go. No. Reconciliation deserves the truth. Reconciliation requires facts. Reconciliation requires everybody to understand exactly what went wrong, who did the wrong things, admit and ask for forgiveness for doing those wrong things, then granting forgiveness and moving on as a healed nation. That requires transparency. It requires accountability. And by the way, it also requires punishment. Again, shot through a biblical lens, atonement is never acquired without some punishment. When David sinned, yes, he was forgiven, but he also was punished. And if you want to get New Testament on me, Christ suffered quite a bit for our sins. So we need the truth. It will set you free. We need to know everything that happened. We need to know who did what. And we need accountability and punishment for the people who did wrong. And yes, you will also have our forgiveness so that we can move on. But not without those other things first. You know how much we love Senator John Kennedy. I mean, he's the best. We featured him a little bit. We feature him whenever we can. Whenever we can feature Senator John Kennedy, we do it. And yesterday, he was at the top of his game. He was interviewing Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, about a lot of things. But is he not just all of us right now? Isn't that, is that not just... Senator John Kennedy is every single American looking at the state of affairs right now. He specifically wanted to know from FBI Director Christopher Wray some answers with regard to the ongoing cover-up, the now closed investigation of Jeffrey Epstein.
We know that Jeffrey Epstein, who is now deceased, and Ms. Maxwell, his associate, who's in prison, were engaged in a conspiracy of sex trafficking with minors. So were others. It's been widely reported. What's the FBI doing to investigate the other people that were involved in these sex trafficking rings?
Well, I'm not sure that I can confirm any specific individual.
Well, let me put it this way. Let me give you some facts, widely reported. Jeffrey Epstein had video surveillance in all of his homes and on his private island. And there have been articles after articles from witnesses who have said he videotaped sex acts with prominent people because he was trying to incur with young girls that he had procured to try to incur favor with those prominent people and potentially to be able to blackmail them. Now, that's a fact. And the FBI and other federal agencies have raided his houses. Do you have those tapes?
Again, I can't discuss the specifics of our law enforcement operations related to Mr. Epstein or Ms. Maxwell, but obviously we had very...
No one's asking about the law enforcement operations. The question is, do you have the tapes that allegedly were made in the homes? And there's a couple of things I don't understand here that maybe we'll get to the bottom of, but Jeffrey Epstein is dead. How he got there is, I think, still worth questioning and investigating, but he's dead. All right. So there's no ongoing investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. All right. For procuring underage girls for wealthy, powerful, well-known clients. Now, if she's guilty of procuring underage girls for clients for sexual services, why is it we have not prosecuted any of the clients? What Ghislaine Maxwell did is illegal, right? She basically acted as a pimp, as a madam, along with Jeffrey Epstein, to procure underage girls for sexual services for men. But the men in question here are also guilty of procuring said services, and yet they don't get arrested, let alone prosecuted. Does this make any sense? And to convict Ms. Maxwell, part of the evidence here has to be, oh yeah, you did this for these clients because look, here are the clients. And yet none of this is allowed to be revealed. And Christopher Wray, the FBI director, oh, well, we don't want to, get in the way of putting this out there because it might jeopardize. But for God's sake, they, as we mentioned yesterday, they still won't tell us about the Kennedy assassination 60 years later. Who are we protecting here? That is the question. Who are we protecting? And so now you got weaselly little squirmy Christopher Wray, who's going to try to slither and slide out of this by saying, well, I can't really reveal such things in the middle of testimony. Could we just call bullshit all of this finally on all of this? That's not true. If the senator is asking you about who is it going to harm? Who's it going to jeopardize? What exactly is going to be put into question? What is Christopher Wray afraid of? If he confirms that they have the tapes, then the people who are on the tapes are going to do what? What, you're afraid that you're going to, give them a heads up that you're coming after him? You're not coming after anybody. You would have by now. This is such a massive cover-up.
Very active investigation related to both of them. But whether it extends to other people, I'm not sure that's something.
Wait, I got to go back. There's an active investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, an active investigation into a dead man who Hillary Clinton may or may not have allegedly, probably, but maybe not had killed, suicided, allegedly, reportedly, supposedly. There's an active investigation into that guy, the corpse.
Have raided his houses. Do you have those tapes?
Again, I can't discuss the specifics of our law enforcement operations related to Mr. Epstein or Ms. Maxwell, but obviously we had very active investigation related to both of them. But whether it extends to other people, I'm not sure that's something
But here,
comment on.
a suit was filed yesterday against one of those prominent people by one of the young women sex trafficked, allegedly. Said he was part of the ring. It's on the front page. I don't know, is this New York Times, Wall Street Journal? And we keep seeing article after article after article. And we keep hearing about prominent person after prominent person after prominent person. I just want to know if these prominent people are above the law and are going to be, and aren't being investigated, or is the FBI investigating them?
Well, no one is above the law, number one. As to whether specific people are being investigated, that's not something that I, as I'm sure you can appreciate, can engage on here.
But he's not asking about specific people. He's just saying anybody. You don't even have to give me a name. Just tell me, are you investigating the clients? Do you have the tapes of the clients? Do you know who the clients were? And by the way, what's the purpose of keeping that secret? See, I would think it would be incredibly powerful for the FBI director to just make a public statement, whether it's in a hearing or a press conference, come on television, come on this show, and say, I want every single client of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein to know that we know who you are and we're coming after you. What would be the harm in that? Honestly, am I stupid or something that I'm not quite getting it? Because here's what you do, guys. You make that statement, and then whoever starts running for the hills, that's probably who you should be investigating. Honestly, you don't have to give us a name, you obsequious little jerk. God, this guy drives me nuts. And he acts like the senators work for him. Have you ever noticed that whenever an FBI director goes up there, they act like they're the boss and the senators are there to serve them? So the answer is, I can't say one way or the other if we're investigating the clients. Well, if you're not investigating the clients, you should be fired. How about that? That's what the answer should be. Are you investigating the clients who Ghislaine Maxwell went to jail for servicing? And if not, clean out your desk. How many years has it been?
devoted significant resources to the investigation.
Is it ongoing?
I'm not sure there's anything I can share with you on that, but let me see if we can get back to you and provide a little more
Well, for
information
example,
about
these
it.
allegations in this lawsuit, the civil action. is
Yeah,
the-
I haven't seen
You ought to
the
read it.
article.
It'll trigger your gag reflex. Is the FBI going to investigate that?
Well, again, I haven't seen the article, but I would be happy to take a look at it and take it back and see if it's part of something.
I'd
we're
just
already
like to
working on.
know,
I share your.
yeah, is the FBI still investigating this, or are these prominent people going to go scot-free?
I'm not sure that I can tell you whether or not there is ongoing work being devoted to this. I would be happy to take a look at the specific article. I share your disgust at Mr. Epstein's conduct and Ms. Maxwell's conduct.
And others.
The whole operation.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair.
Do you, though? Do you really share that disgust? Because you don't seem very disgusted. You know, this is a guy who's saying, this is disgusting. I am absolutely disgusted by all of these allegations having to do with this Jeffrey Epstein thing. If only there was someone out there who could do something about it. Oh, well, I guess I'll go back to my job as the FBI director. Here's what Senator Kennedy was referring to, by the way. Jeffrey Epstein accuser sues prominent psychiatrist for making her, quote, a sex slave. This is from Reuters. Prominent 91-year-old psychiatrist who was once close friends with Jeffrey Epstein was sued on Monday by a one-time model who said he enabled the late financier's sex trafficking and turned her into his modern-day sex slave. Complaint filed in Manhattan federal court. The plaintiff used a pseudonym, Jane Doe 11, said Henry Jarecki raped her repeatedly starting in 2011 after Epstein referred her for mental health treatment following his own sexual abuses. Doe also said Jarecki was Epstein's go-to doctor for treating young women experiencing depression, shared victims' confidential medical information with Epstein, and shielded Epstein from law enforcement. I would call somebody like that a person of interest. And he's 91 years old right now. Maybe they should sort of get on it. So you're seeing these civil lawsuits, but nothing criminal. What are they afraid of? If you go after one of these clients, why do we even use the word clients? You go after one of these dirtbag perverts, that opens up the book to all of them. Is there someone else in that book that you're not going to go after? And so you decide not to go after any of them? Are you concerned that in discovery, the defense of the one pervert you decide to go after will be able to see all the evidence you've got that includes the evidence on the other perverts you're protecting? Is that what's going on here, FBI Director Christopher Wray? It would be nice to know. Really nice to know. But no. We got bigger fish to fry. Donald Trump labeled a payment to his lawyer as a legal fee instead of using that drop-down menu item, hush money. And so we got to expend as much resources as we can for that prosecution. Yesterday, as we discussed, President Joe Biden figured out that he was president and therefore he could issue executive orders on the border. What he did was nothing. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a giant crack in the Hoover Dam. It's not going to change a damn thing. It was purely political. Of course, the question about the border and what he did here is not, oh, now he's doing an executive order, and for the last year he said he couldn't do an executive order. No. You got to go further back than that. Oh, well, Joe Biden's doing something to fix the border, even though for 3 years he said that the border was fine, it wasn't a crisis, and nothing needed to be fixed. Yeah, you could go that far back, but no. You should go even further back. Oh, Joe Biden did an executive order to stop the flow of people across the border, even though on day one he had an executive order that opened the flow of people across the border. Yeah, you could make your case there, but no, actually, you could go even further than that. You can go back to when Joe Biden was running for the Democrat nomination, and he promised, using his words, that he would surge to the border and open it up and let everybody in. He told us what he was going to do from the beginning. And now he's pretending like something's broken. Oh, even worse. He's pretending like something's broken. He's the only one who can fix it, and it's broken because of Republicans. He's a lying, hateful, despicable individual who's ruining our country. And the border is just half of the equation. But as we look at the border crisis, that is a crisis and has been a crisis since day one of the Biden presidency, what he did yesterday not only won't fix anything, it's actually causing those who are breaking our laws on a daily basis to mock us, openly mock us, because they see what a paper tiger America is with Joe Biden as president. Bill Malugin for Fox News has the report from the border, and this is going to make your hair catch on fire.
Yeah, Dana, good morning to you. While most people were sleeping last night, we were out here witnessing an enormous mass illegal crossing right where we're standing here in San Diego County. We'll get right into the video. Take a look at this. This was about 6 hours ago, 1:30 in the morning Pacific time, as we watched hundreds upon hundreds of people from all around the planet cross illegally here into Jacumba, California, a major hotspot on the southern border. No resistance whatsoever. They simply walked past the Mexican military on their side of the border, then came through a gap in the wall and arrived here in the United States. Single adult men from all over the place, a lot of them from African and Asian countries. Met a lot of guys from Mauritania, that is in West Africa. That is a special interest country because of potential terror and national security concerns. You'll see in the video, there was one single Border Patrol agent out here trying to corral these hundreds of migrants as they were coming in. The migrants were asking us, are we in America? Where's Border Patrol at? We had a chance to talk with some of them as they were coming in. Take a listen. Where are you guys from? What country?
Mauritania.
Mauritania, from Africa.
Yes.
Yeah? And why'd you guys come to the United States? What country?
Nepal.
Nepal.
Yeah.
All of you from Nepal?
Yeah. No English.
No English. What country?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. What country are you from?
Mauritania.
Mauritania?
Yeah.
Mauritanians?
Mauritania, yeah.
Where are you guys from? What country?
India.
This is America. See the red lights? That's Border Patrol. Straight. Straight.
You are Tidwana?
No. San Diego. See the lights?
San Diego. Okay. Thank you.
And then take a look at this. I shot this video as the migrants were waiting for Border Patrol. A bunch of them went up to the border wall and started snapping photos and selfies, celebrating the fact that they had arrived in the United States, almost using the border wall kind of as a tourist attraction, almost it looked like, or some sort of background for their social media photos. And back out here live, you can see behind us, another group has just crossed illegally. They're predominantly Colombians. I talked to them a few moments ago. They want to go to New York.
All right, we'll pick this up in a minute, but oh, God, November 5th can't come fast enough. Seriously. They're taking selfies in front of the wall after they cross it through an opening that probably Biden sent a crew down there, a union crew, mind you, to go and create the hole in the wall so they could sneak across. And they're taking selfies like they're at Disneyland in front of Space Mountain. What, is Kamala Harris going to go down there dressed as Minnie Mouse and pose with them? We are such a joke right now internationally. Remember what Joe Biden said? We're going to get respect around the world again. The rest of the world's going to respect us finally. Does that look like respect to you? We are in a country where we're like the subway in New York, where people can just hop the turnstile and nobody gets punished. They're taking selfies. By the way, where'd they get their phones? I thought they were impoverished. How do they have smartphones? How many poor people who are starving and can't make it? Did any of those guys look starving to you? They're in pretty good shape. Dressed pretty nice. How many impoverished people who can't scrape enough pennies together to get a meal around the world, so they have to desperately come here to the land of opportunity where the streets are paved with gold? How many of them have smartphones? How many of them have $1,000 iPhones that they're taking selfies with at the border wall? We are being taken. Don't you feel like a schmuck the way they're taking advantage of us? And what's even worse is that if you dare say what I'm saying right now, if you dare raise an objection to this, you're the racist, you're the xenophobe, you're uncaring, you have no compassion for people. How dare you? That's not who we are. This is America. We're a laughing stock. because of Joe Biden, because of his party. Okay. Sorry. Then again, this is yesterday's report. This is like hours before Joe Biden got tough on the border because he saw that it's now June and the election's coming up in November. So I better do something. Well, even better, I better make it look like I'm doing something. I'm not actually going to do anything, but I'm going to sign a document and then give a speech blaming Republicans so it'll look like I'm doing something. But don't worry, I'm not going to do anything.
Primarily Brooklyn. You look on the ground right here, torn up travel documents from Indian nationals. And then you look over to our right over here, you got more people from all over the world waiting for Border Patrol to pick them up. These guys are from Asia. There's a couple Chinese there. You can see they brought their luggage with them. They're waiting for Border Patrol to pick them up. Guys, the bottom line is, as we wait for President Biden to see what this announcement is today, these migrants out here, they just don't fear consequences right now, and they haven't for several years. There's no fear of removal, no fear of deportation. Will President Biden change that today with whatever he's about to announce? We'll wait and see.
Remarkable stuff, Bill. Really extraordinary. Just one of many, many times that you brought reports like this to us. Just a simple question. If everybody's got an iPhone that's charged, what are they doing on the Mexican side of the border? Where do they get that? Where are they staying? Who's helping them?
Yeah, that's a question we've been wondering too. And we are able to see in some Telegram channels that these smugglers operate, how they get them to the border. They drive them up in SUVs and little convoys, because this area is out in the middle of nowhere on the Mexican side. There's not a Mexican city across from us. We're in the middle of nowhere on the California side. It is a very well-oiled, well-organized machine that these cartel smugglers are operating. And in those Telegram group chats, some of them had been talking about this announcement that Biden is supposed to make today, wondering what it is going to be. So the president has an opportunity here. He can crack down. He can start increasing deportations. He can start imposing consequences. And maybe that will start changing some of the mindsets here at the southern border, where there's no fear of consequences right now.
Just another day. Thank you, Bill Malugin. Terrific job down there from 1:30 in the morning in the middle of the night to bring us that now. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, really good work from Bill Malugin, as usual. I remember when he was just a local reporter in LA, and he's really doing a great job. And you know, there was something that occurred to me as I saw that report, all the torn up travel documents there, because you know they always tell you that these are undocumented workers. You're not allowed to call them illegal aliens or illegal immigrants or illegals in any way whatsoever. No, they're just undocumented, guys. Hey, guys, they're just undocumented. Well, they destroyed their own documents. They tore up their documents. That's why they're undocumented. They had documents. They tore them up. But they didn't tear up all their documents. I'll share one more thing with you, and then we'll close this one out. This is a video that went viral over the weekend. Do you see this line? It's in fast motion here, but you can see how long the line is. Super long line. This is in Houston, Texas, and it goes on for blocks and blocks and blocks. And this line leads you right up to, you see that building there? That is the Mexican consulate in Houston. And this line that goes for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks is for Mexican nationals who were waiting in line to vote, because the Mexican election was this weekend. And so there they are lining up to vote at the Mexican consulate in Houston. That's how many of them are there. And they're all voting because they're Mexican citizens. They just happen to be here, you know, illegally. They hated their country so much that they wanted to come here, but now they want to make sure that they vote in the country that they hated so much that they left. But here's the real kicker. Before they vote, when they go up to the Mexican consulate, they have to show them a photo ID. Yes, that's right. In Mexico, you can't vote unless you have a photo ID. And so each one of those undocumented new guests to our country, while voting in their old country that they just left behind, have to show a document. The undocumented workers show a document that proves that they are who they are before they vote. Of course, here in America, if you ask for a photo ID for somebody before they vote, you're racist, because they can't possibly figure out how to get a photo ID. They're not white after all. That's what the Democrat position is. Don't blame me. Oh, asking for a photo ID hurts Latino and Black voters disproportionately because they're incapable of getting an ID. Well, these guys are capable of having an ID for the country that they live in, where they do have to show a photo ID. But here in America, they can vote without having to show a photo ID. Oh, I know. You have to be a citizen to vote here in America, right? That's right. You do have to be a citizen to vote here in America. And of course, how do you prove that you're a citizen when you go to vote? Well, you just... I got nothing for you. Search me. I got nothing. Well, I regret to inform you that Star Wars has gone really gay. I mean super gay. I mean like RuPaul gay. I'm talking Greg Louganis off the diving board gay. I'm talking Liberace gay. I'm talking Freddie Mercury on a hot night in Manhattan in the mid-'80s. Guest starring Michael Jackson gay. That's how gay we're talking. Brand new series on Disney Plus, because Disney, after all. It's called The Acolyte. And here's how The Wrap discussed some of the nuanced underlying storylines in this new feature from Star Wars.
I want to ask you both because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. And are you excited about that? Are you
Not
bracing
the gayest
yourself?
Star Wars. Not the
It's pretty gay. Let's be honest. Leslie, how do you feel?
Am I gay?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, no, I know
Yeah.
you are gay, but I'm asking, are you excited about putting this, this is going to be a talking point.
Is it going to be a talking point?
I'm sure so.
Because nerds are gay.
Well, some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my world, nerds are gay.
Was this the fun elements of it?
No, I don't think so. And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly
You're offended?
into it. No.
I think that Star Wars is so gay already.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen the fits? We'd be like, look how gay this is, and then send each other a reference photo.
And are you telling me with a straight face that C-3PO is straight?
They're a couple. That's what I think. But this is more outward.
I think it's canon that R2-D2 is a lesbian.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ask Filoni. Okay.
Ask for
Can you
one.
imagine?
Yeah, I told you it's gay. It's super gay. It's not just gay, but it's insufferably gay. And insufferably gay in a way that they're like, when they're laughing at you, of course. I wonder, I watch Disney Plus sometimes. I do. I'm sorry. I was a Disney kid growing up. I love Disney. I used to work at Disneyland, actually, when I grew up in Orange County, California. Oh, there's a topic for another time. That's right. I was in the parades at Disney. I've seen my share of gay. But not related to Star Wars. It's like Star Wars had to be ruined because it wasn't gay. So they had to make it gay. And now, well, yeah, I mean, of course it's ruined. You know why? Because they're not interested in storytelling. They're interested in political agenda. Joel Berry, who writes at the Babylon Bee, he's one of the founders and editors of Babylon Bee. He's got an advanced copy of it. He gave this succinct review. The Acolyte is a queer Marxist vandalization of the myth of Star Wars. In The Acolyte, the Force is a metaphor for cultural hegemonic power. The Jedi are a metaphor for cisgender white oppressors who hoard the power for themselves. Yes, it really is that obnoxious and stupid. I mean, who doesn't want to watch this? Imagine you're hired to be in a Star Wars series. You're an actor and you land a job. Let's face it, most actors in Hollywood, especially people you've never heard of or seen of before, like this guy, most of the time they spend waiting tables, okay? So they get a gig. They get a plum gig, a prime gig, a fantastic gig. You're hired. We want you to be in our brand new Star Wars series. Now, this would be a great moment in your life, a great moment in your career. And what would you do? I know what I would do. If I don't know Star Wars, I'm going to learn everything I can about Star Wars. I'm going to go back and watch all the movies. I'm going to watch the Clone Wars animated series. I'm going to watch everything I can, right? Because I'm Star Wars. I'm part of Star Wars now. This is great. All right. So take a listen to this guy in an interview, flexing his muscle, his intellectual prowess about what he knows about the Star Wars universe.
I did get in trouble for this answer at Star Wars Con. I got heat.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's so funny to me because it literally, as a person who's outside and just a fan coming in, that was what was so beautiful and interesting to me. You know, people have been talking to me online about how Darth Vader is such a bad person. It's very clear, and it's very well established from those actions. But if you can't look and see that Anakin blowing up the Death Star possibly killed millions and millions of people, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this right now.
You should just shut up.
It's just
Well, you are going to get in trouble for saying this, not because you're in some way offending someone who is a big fan of Anakin. Anakin never blew up the Death Star. Anakin is Darth Vader, you moron. It was Luke. Luke blew up the Death Star.
well, Anakin just killed a whole Death Star. How many people died on that?
He should be fired. No, seriously. If I'm producing the Star Wars series, I fire this man right now as an example. What the hell has happened? I'm sorry I get worked up about this. Oh. Okay, so it's queer, it's Marxist. The Force is a metaphor for cultural hegemony. The Jedi are a metaphor for cisgender white oppressors who hoard power for themselves. But it's better than that, actually. The actors are stupid, and they flaunt their, all the gay stuff in that first interview that we showed. But there's even better than this. This is the lead actress is named Amanda Stenberg. She appeared in a podcast talking about her work. And it turns out they're not just stupid. They're not just ignorant about Star Wars canon or anything having to do with Star Wars. They're not just gay and decide to reinvent Star Wars through a gay pride lens. By the way, no mistake that this thing is coming out this month. This is Disney. This is Disney extending. Does Mickey Mouse have a middle finger? Because Mickey Mouse only has 4 fingers, right? A thumb and 3 fingers. So I get which one is the middle finger? Well, I mean, let's just say this is Mickey Mouse doing this to you, okay? Because not only is all of that true about this thing, but also apparently the lead actress, Amanda Stenberg, I think you could accurately describe her as, let's just say, racially insensitive, if not outright racist.
In the beginning of I Am Legend, where he's like, first it was or maybe it's another dystopian movie, but it's like, first it was the zombies.
He had to
Literally
kill
the
that
vibe.
poor dog. You know that that's how they effectively made white people really afraid during that movie, was that they killed the dog. You know what I mean?
Animal cruelty is the one thing I won't allow.
Animal cruelty.
That's the
is
one thing.
What gets them. I think it wasn't until I was older and I could really understand things infrastructurally that I got, oh, right, Hollywood is a white institution. And that means that representations within Hollywood are going to be extensions of white supremacy. And not just in Hollywood, but, in music, in entertainment, and in media. We do put biracial and light-skinned people on a platform and expect that to monolithically represent all Black people. But it's another way of, like you said, making white people feel comfortable. They actually can't quite distinguish different shades of Black people.
And it's a way to crush down the story.
On behalf of the light-skinned community, it is our responsibility when it comes to, visibility to know what spaces are appropriate to take up or not. And that's a lesson that I've learned. And I'm really grateful because I have a really extensive queer community. And I have many people that I love so deeply around me who share a lot of the same values as me. And I can commune with them, and we can grieve about the state of the world, and we can also decide what we want to do together collectively to organize, whether it's like in a moment like this, if it's going to our local protests or
in the beginning.
There you go. I got a bad feeling about this. I don't know about you, but after seeing all of that, seeing how the Acolyte is described, seeing the intelligence level of the cast members, seeing the racist, activist, queer nation kind of positions that the actors take and the director and the filmmaker take on it. I don't know about you, but I, for one, I cannot wait to not watch The Acolyte. And that is it this time. Until the next time, I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.